Don Munson is the voice of the Clemson Tiger football program and has been for a long time, and certainly saw what transpired last year, and here we go with round number 2. Don, thanks for a few minutes on game day. Rodger, Wyland, Zach by ESPN Radio in Albany.
Well, thank you all for having me. Good to be with you, and believe me, I'm glad to be sitting here in Tampa getting ready for a national championship game tonight.
Hey, I would love it too, man. Tampa's a great spot. I know what I hear. Game time, Tampa going to be in the not going to be 80 degrees, but what, mid-50s with no rain? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm sitting here, sitting in the hotel right now, looking out. I mean, there's not a cloud in the sky, plenty of sunshine. I think they're saying about 68 the high. Around 50 degrees will be the low, so I would guess at game time we'll kick off, probably around 60 degrees, and it'll probably be 52 maybe by the end of the game, something like that. So perfect football weather from that standpoint.
No doubt. Don, what is the vibe around Clemson right now? Anxiety, excitement, nerves? What's the feeling with this Clemson football team here as we get set for kickoff?
Well, I think if you're around the team, the vibe is business. If you're around the fan base, the vibe is excitement. And maybe a little nervousness from that standpoint, because they realize, what Clemson's going up against here. They're going up against the kings of college football right now. But as Coach Sweeney has been telling the guys in team meetings and out in the practice field is, boys, you had the opportunity last year and we came up short. Well, here it presents itself again. Let's see if we can go out here and take care of business, draw our swords, and try to cut the head off the dragons. Let's slay the dragon tonight, and we'll see if that can happen. Don,
what makes this football team different than last year's Clemson team that lost 45-40 to the same Alabama squad?
I think really it's on the defensive side of the football, which I think shocks a lot of people. You look at that defense from last year, 7 starters from that defense last year are currently playing in the National Football League. And I'm not talking about like on a practice squad. I'm talking about playing in the National Football League. So you've got to replace those 7 pieces, and they've been able to do it. And that's one of the beauties of where this program is right now. This thing's built for sustainability. It's not 15 minutes of fame. Is that Clemson right now doesn't rebuild. They just simply go and reload. You take a look at, like, Cleveland Farrell last week. Here's a redshirt freshman who redshirted last year, came to the game last year, watched it on the sidelines, and he'll tell you he learned as much from that one game as he's learned playing an entire season. So he's fired up, to be here to actually get to put on the pads and go out there and play in this ball game against Alabama. So, but I would definitely say defensively, as good as that defense was last year, they just gave up way too many big plays. Clemson gave up over 4,900 yards defensively last year. 2,500 of them came on 78 plays. All right, so means eyes in the wrong place. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and certainly that was a big piece of what happened to him last year against Bama.
Don, it almost feels like Deshaun Watson needs to turn in a historic performance tonight at the quarterback spot for Clemson. Is that the way you see it?
Well, he's got to play well. I don't know that he has to turn in a historic performance, but again, that's one of the things that Coach Sweeney always tells his players. When you get to games like this, big games like this, your best players are expected to play big, and he's not afraid to call them out about that. So, he's been telling Deshaun, he's been telling Mike Williams, he's been telling Wayne Gallman, Deion Kane, Hunter Renfrow, Jordan Leggett, all those guys on the offensive side of the ball from a skill position. But he's also been saying the same things to the Christian Wilkins, to the Dexter Lawrence, to the Carlos Watkins, to the Ben Boulwares, to the Kendall Josephs, to the Jadar Johnson, Cordray Tankersley's over on the defensive side. Your big players have got to play big in games like this if you expect to win.
Don, we're talking Clemson football here. Clemson, Alabama tonight, the highly anticipated rematch, college football national title game, and Don Munson is the voice of the Clemson Tiger program. Don, do you think maybe the controversy going on with the Lane Kiffin out and new guy in there with that whole offensive thing maybe help out play a little bit in favor of Clemson tonight?
One would think that it has to have some kind of effect, but now here's the problem that I think that everybody says, well, it's got to have an effect. Well, you're right, it's going to have an effect, but I think everybody is already going to the negative side. What if it has a positive effect? I don't know how many of us have thought about that, but there is always that possibility. Nick Saban's a pretty smart guy. Right? So he probably is the best in what he's been doing, certainly in college football here in the modern era. He wouldn't make this change at this point in time if he did not think that it was for the betterment of his team. So I'm going to give Coach Saban, some credit, and also we'll see what Sark can do calling the plays. There's a lot of pressure on him, just like I said about the players. Guess what? Coaches have got to elevate themselves as well in games like this. I thought that Kiffin last year against Clemson called a magnificent game. We'll see if Sarkisian can do it here tonight as well.
Alabama's been so good against the run. How do you match it up from an X's and O's standpoint, the Clemson offense against this Alabama defense?
Well, I mean, no doubt. The thing that just jumps off the stat sheet to you when you look at Alabama, they've given up 868 yards total rushing for the entire year. 868 for the entire year. They make people one-dimensional. They make people throw the football against them. It's one of the reasons they've got 15 defensive touchdowns this year, because they get you one-dimensional, and then they absolutely feast on you. Pitt did that earlier to Clemson, all right? Let's go back to the one game that Clemson lost. They lost to Pittsburgh. Clemson had to throw the ball 70 times in that game. Now, Deshaun Watson completed 52 of those passes, but they still came up a point short. Clemson's got to run the ball at least a little bit in this game just to keep the defense of Alabama honest. And if they can run the ball just a little bit, and remember last year now, Clemson outrushed Alabama in the national championship game. I think that's a point that a lot of people miss from last year coming into this year. So if the offensive line can do what they did last year against the defensive front four or front seven, however you want to look at it, and give them a little bit of a running game, then I like Clemson's chances here.
Don, if Clemson is going to pull off this upset and knock off the juggernaut Alabama, if you could boil it down to one thing, the Tigers will have to do what?
They're going to have to force Jalen Hurts to throw the football. Now much the same way that Clemson's got to run a little, I think Alabama's got to run a lot. Because Alabama now, with that big offensive line, they want to play a little smash-mouth football. Now, they've got plenty of talent at wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. Those wide receivers that they have are really, really good at what they do. But this is an offense that's predicated on putting that tailback 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage in that eye set and just running downhill at you and trying to smash you. Clemson did a pretty good job with that last year as far as containing what Alabama could do on the ground. If they can contain Alabama, kind of the same way they did against Ohio State. Ohio State came in rushing for better than 258 yards per game and just couldn't get any semblance of a ground game going against Clemson. If Clemson can make them one-dimensional and force Hurts to throw the football, then I think Clemson wins, and not only wins, but I think they win big.
I really like Clemson tonight. I think they're going to win this football game. And Nick Saban gets all the headlines, and you know what? Deservingly so. But the former Crimson Tide of Alabama, which is Dabo Swinney, I mean, what a job he has done with this Clemson Tiger program, right?
Oh, he's amazing. Now, I'm pretty loyal to him. I actually served on his staff for 4 years from 2010 through 2014 as part of the administrative and support staff. So I understand what I look at it through, but I'm just very, very loyal to this man and what he has done. But if you watch the way that he has gone about building this from the time that he took over midway through the 2008 season, he was never scared to make decisions that he felt like had to be made for the betterment of the program and to start building this program. And he knew he couldn't do everything in just one big stroke of the brush, that it was going to have to take some time to be able to do it. You look at what he's built this into now, like this isn't 15 minutes of fame. This is sustainability of what you're seeing from Clemson football. And this football program is going to be here for a while.
Don Munson, have a great call of the game tonight. We appreciate a few minutes here on Big Board Sports on ESPN in Albany, and hopefully it's a great game, and we'll wrap up another college football season tonight. Good luck to Clemson.
I appreciate that, and hey, the snow will eventually melt. It'll be fine. You'll see the grass again. I promise you that.
We will. Maybe a couple of months before that happens, but we will.